puts me down the edge. I am the actor that plays the crazy boy, Chris Flynn. One of my least favourite roles, to be honest. It's poorly written, and he's not an interesting character. I'll be back at the end of the episode to say adieu. Michael Heseltine, Two-Tone Records, rubbish piling up for legal slumlords, media talking about the Star Wars film, but they never mention the spiraling bill. Goes down to the market for a stolen bike, coppers breaking up the miners' strike, Thatcher's monsters roll the land, don't expect a helping hand.
So what I gleaned from that is she doesn't understand what personification means.
No, I mean... but look. So she's saying, you know, this is evil incarnate, which is taken over the house.
Yeah.
How has this happened? Who knows? But it's so you know, there's some strong words, and
vague words, strong vague words.
Let's see.
And some incorrect words.
So let's hear from some of the other psychic evaluators. And so it was like a psychic slumber party. One of them just said. And Louise Warren, again, has just heard
Would you like marshmallows in your cocoa? Like that.
Exactly. She remembers an overwhelming feeling
Pillow fight.
Oh, pillow wife fight.
Pillow wife fight, yeah. You just get... yeah, when your pillow wife finds out you've got a pillow girlfriend, who you pay for a flat for in the centre of town when you're at work.
No, it's all going fine. What are you talking about?
I've got to work late again. Go and see your pillow girlfriend.
So, Lorraine Warren remembers an overwhelming feeling of horrible depression in the house.
Surprised at those pricks.
They took a series of time-lapse photos of the upstairs landing.
Right.
And saw the face of what appeared to be a little boy peering out from one of the bedrooms.
So unfortunately, the photo was destroyed.
Yeah,
by ghosts.
Sadly, no, it no longer exists. Yeah, it was. It got some ectoplasm on it, and then didn't. Yeah,
disappeared into a vortex.
Yeah, then disappeared into another dimension. But so the Lutts family, after they left the house, fortunately, everything went back to normal, and
right.
And then he starts to think, well, look, you know, maybe it was living in that house that drove Butch to kill his family. And I'll quote,
he became an advocate.
He became an advocate for this. Yeah, and this is. I mean, you know, we'll touch on it in a minute. Because as you know, I'm very much, I believe, respect the grift and all of that. But yeah, when you're starting to sort of come up,
when you're trying to grift,
we're trying to grift someone out of life,
murderer,
murdering their family, or something like that.
It's not really a grift, is it?
It's more of just being a horrific human being. But there you go. But he claims we realised there was something so wrong there; it would be inhuman, it would be improper to just let him rot in jail and not try and get him out of some kind of psychological help.
Right.
Inhuman and improper. There you go. Strong words. So anyway, we already established that the jury weren't buying any of this crap and locked him up. But Lutts had contacted their attorney, and he was already at this point fielding book proposals from publishers about the client's story.
No, right. And
he thought, Lutts' story of a haunted house, which is all true, by the way, Chris. Well, that's the potential to drive up interest in the book. And I should point out, we were talking about Son of Sam earlier. Obviously, there's a famous law in America where they you can't profit from your crimes. But that didn't come about until a couple of years after this, so still quite happy. I believe some people still argue, actually, under the First Amendment, that shouldn't be that law is technically should not it's not constitutional or what have you.
I think the problem with it is it could give a reason for someone who's pretty on the edge anyway. It could be like the straw that breaks my back, and it's like, my life's really shit. I could actually I quite fancy killing some people anyway, but if I do it, I'll probably get a book deal out of it and provide for my family.
No, I agree. I understand completely why the law exists, so people can't profit from horrendous crimes. It's just some people claim that either that it's unconstitutional and it's against free speech, or that it will prevent people from being incentivised to confess to things that might be in the public interest, or to anyway, there you go. Don't agree with that, obviously, but anyway. But this was pre Son of Sam laws, so you could still profit off of horrendous crimes. No, the lawyer, who in no way reminds me of Lionel Hutz from The Simpsons. He apparently said we met the Lutzes, and they were quite a reserved tone. No ranting or raving going on. Do you know what I like about obvious liars, Chris? The way that they reveal their hand very early on. There was no ranting or raving when I spoke to Mr. Why interpreting from what you told me that?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, those are interesting words that you'd use.
There was no ranting and raving. In no way were any of their sentences incoherent.
Seemed perfectly stable. In no way interested in making a quick buck. Nothing. No, I don't know why you suggest these things. Interesting. But then the three of them went on to consume at least 4 bottles of wine, and the evening turned into a creative writing session about the kind of thing you go into a horror book. I would assume so.
Yeah, hopefully.
And that doesn't mention all of the
tonics.
Yeah,
Stephen King tonics.
Yes, Stephen King writing juice.
Stephen King's creative powders.
Yeah, it's, writer's creative elixir, 70s blend. Right, so give and take towards the end, they're creating ideas.
Typing powder.
But all it was things like the gelatin drops they found on the carpet, giving them a sinister explanation. Well, why can't it have come from a demonic source? This is just the lawyer. They were just brainstorming ways to make money out of.
Yeah, just brainstorming. There's no bad ideas here.
There's no immoral ideas in brainstorming, Chris.
No, it's just idea. It's the First Amendment.
In case any law enforcement happens to hear this, it's just calling. It's just ideas. Obviously, the immoral or illegal ones, we'll take those out when we get to thrash it down.
When we let the lawyers have a look at it.
Yeah, you've got a lawyer here, right here.
Could it be candle wax, or could it be Satan's tears? It could be either. We don't know. We got rid of the waxy substance now. It went in the bin, so we can't send it to a lab. So either explanation is equally useful.
So he didn't believe the Lutts' account of inexplicable happenings because he thought it was just as a commercial venture.
Really?
He was kind of and they kind of felt he was pressuring them, and they also didn't like his idea of offering a share of profits to DeFeo or Butch. So they decided to go in different directions, creative differences at this point.
It's like they were like the Beatles.
Yeah. Yeah, very much like. I mean, I would say arguably more like another prominent '60s musician, Charles Manson. It might have more, but
excellent musician.
Yeah, underrated.
Did he do anything after finished music?
Not that I'm familiar with. I think he just retired out of the limelight, Chris. He did one perfect album that he did with the Beach Boys producer, and then I'll
have to look him up at some point. See if he's playing Brighton soon. Might be playing Concord 2 or something.
I assume he's probably doing just some minor gigs, maybe a bit of an acoustic set, something like that.
Yeah.
Seem like a pretty
good lads.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to him. Anyway, I assume he hasn't done anything horrible. Sometimes, Chris, the problem is you pick these people out from the past and you find out they've been up to things they shouldn't have been.
That is, yeah. So, I hope he hasn't been I hope he hasn't been me too.
Like that. No, God, that would be okay.
No. His album cover was actually shot in Brighton, wasn't it? When he was on top of the Helter Skelter waving.
Yeah. Influenced the famous Beatles track, I believe. But
yeah.
So they wrote a book with some chap called Jay Anston.
Unassuming genius. That's what I'd say.
Okay. We could make that a quote for the podcast. Oh, do you reckon he might? He could maybe give us a plug.
Yeah,
if he's still around.
Yeah, I'll see if we can write him a letter or something.
Yeah,
that'd be all right.
Try and track him down after this. Yeah,
I might send him some pictures of me in my sexy cat outfit.
He might like that.
Oh, he'd probably think it's really funny.
Well, it's a bit of fun, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Fantastic.
So they released their book, The Amityville Horror: A True Story.
So they went off and just wrote the book themselves?
No, they hooked up with a chap called Jay Anston to write the book for them.
Right.
Like a ghostwriter. Well, not ghostwriter, but somebody like work up the true story into a
into a plot.
Into not a novel or a book or a fabrication, Chris. Because it's there in the title of the book, a true story.
So it's like it's kind of like I, Claudius or something like that. So it's a story, but based on very much true events.
Yeah, based on true events, but also they were very recent. So whereas I, Claudius, Rupert Graves was having to make a lot of guesses and, some sources like Suetonius and stuff probably weren't as reliable as they might have been thought to be. I mean...
They called it the American I, Claudius, didn't they?
This was unimpeachable. This is just pure facts that have come from very recent history. So, yeah, I mean, if anything, more like a documentary, you would say.
Okay.
Yeah. So, sold 6 million. So
it's like a John Ronson book.
Yeah, if you like. Yeah.
Like gonzo journalism.
Possibly a bit less quirky, it was the 70s. I mean, obviously you had, what's his face, knocking around in the original gonzo journalist. Was it Huntress Thompson?
Yeah.
Very, very...
And Huntress Thompson, of course, famously was in Frank Sidebottom's band, wasn't he, as the keyboard player?
Yeah, absolutely. Or John Ronson.
That's where the film Frank came from Huntress Thompson's book about it.
Yes. Well, some speculate he was the one under the paper mache head.
Hmm?
Who knows?
Who knows?
So, 6 million copies sold of this book. Then there's
It's good, isn't
version.
It?
It's not bad.
Imagine getting $1 for each copy. Retirement money, that is.
It's not too bad, is it? You
don't have to live in a murder house anymore.
You could buy 6 or 7 murder houses for that. Rent them out.
Yeah.
So like a theme park.
Rent them out to goths.
Yeah.
What emos?
Yeah.
That's modern for goth.
So then they released a film version. Huge box office success. But they hadn't signed a contract with the author. And
oh, no.
They only made about 300 grand, according to them.
Well, it's not bad.
Now, he does admit that some of the scenes in the book and the movie, such as the green slime, were an embellishment. But they are based on events that actually happened during the 28-day stay.
And maybe we embellished it a little bit, pussycat, but, that's the artistic process.
100 grand for a 28-day stay in a house, albeit a bit haunted. When you bought that house for 80 grand, that's not too shabby. That's like £1 million for staying a month in a moody place around here. And I've stayed many years in places probably more haunted than that. Anyway.
I still not. I mean, they're stupid not to have got a contract.
I mean, these aren't smart grifters, Chris.
I should have kept that Lionel Lutts guy.
Yeah, they're getting. They're playing, but they're getting played by the broader audience. Hollywood comes a call in. They're going to. It didn't actually technically make any money. Sorry. Signed a gross profit contract. You're not going to see a fucking penny.
Yeah.
Hollywood accounting.
Lovely stuff.
So the lawyer, though, is still continuing his book project. And he's got in a professor.
Still?
Yep. And he's enlisted
now
Hans Holzer, a professor of paranormal psychology and a self-styled ghost catcher, and an author of dozens of books in the occult. This was back in the 70s. No, I don't know if he's still doing this.
I'm a self-styled ladies' man.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It means nothing, does it?
You've written many self-published books on the subject, haven't you?
I have.
Sold many copies?
No.
Have you sold 6 million copies of that?
No, to be fair, I haven't.
Any? One?
Well, I couldn't find a publisher, so I released my
You wrote
books
it in crayon and left it in a pub, didn't you?
Do that, yeah. But I also I scanned it and released it as a free PDF.
Yeah.
And it's had upwards of 10 downloads. So,
and you sent it around in envelopes to various publications, didn't you? So
yeah,
I assume they'd have read it. It would have been remiss if they hadn't. So.
Well, exactly, and it's got some, good dating tips.
It's quality, not quantity.
Most of which could be considered aggressive, but that's what you got to do in this alpha male society if you want to get the ladies.
Yeah, moving swiftly on. So he's the chap who's the paranormal. See, here's the thing as well. Okay, now I'm going to have to look this chap up. So Hans...
Self-styled is always a red flag, isn't it?
Self-styled's a red flag. Here's what's worrying me. He's apparently a professor of paranormal psychology.
Professor from where?
What exactly? From Maiden.
Self-styled professor. His own university.
Well, this is what I want to say. So, yeah, he was a Austrian-American author and parapsychologist. Wrote 120 books. That sounds Sounds like they were well considered.
A lot.
He lived till he was 89, died about 12 years back. Let's have a look.
So he's not still writing the book with this lawyer guy then?
No.
Unless he's doing it from beyond the grave.
So he studied ancient history at University of Vienna, but they left during the war because of, obvious reasons in World War II. Then he claimed that he had a PhD at a school called the London College of Applied Science. That's not been validated, which means it's not true. And then he went...
So he's not a professor.
He went on to teach parapsychology. You can technically become a professor without a doctorate. It just means you've got tenure and stuff. But he went on to... you've got the official title. But he went on to teach... it's quite rare. He went on to teach parapsychology at the New York Institute of Technology. So it was an accredited institution. Look at it. But there you go. I wonder who is actually getting themselves massively in debt to study parapsychology.
Well, this sounds like 60s nonsense.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Kind of,
not a wise choice of degree, to be honest with you.
Well, they were doing all kinds of nonsense then, weren't they? Like remote viewing and all that kind of shit. So
I guess fine, experiment with it a little bit if you want, but as I say, don't invest your own money into this nonsense. You can get other people to pay you to do it for you, then or you can get other people to pay you for doing it. Then fair enough.
Could I become a professor, Neil?
You can do if you want. You could just start calling yourself Professor Flynn if you want. That was what,
my rap name,
quote unquote, Dr. Gillian McKeith. She just made that up. Because basically, what you do is you go and you buy an academic credentials from email, basically. Start calling yourself that.
That's all right, isn't it? I know Professor Green, the rapper, is actually a professor.
Is he indeed?
He studied. Yeah, he's a professor of economics, which he does in his spare time. He uses his rap money for investments in his portfolio.
Oh, okay. Does he actually serve at a academic institution?
I believe he is. He's got tenure at the University of the East Midlands.
Oh, nice. Well, he knows about making bank, obviously. So some very interesting theories, presumably, about economics.
Good for him. Yeah, he's more Keynesian, which I agree with.
Oh, fair enough.
Economically,
big Adam Smith fan myself.
You're a monster.
Yeah.
Adam Smith, Ayn Rand, all good.
I
ones.
think Smith's got a lot more to say for himself than Ayn Rand.
Yeah.
Anyway,
she's just got a lot to answer for.
Objectivism's not the most coherent of philosophies. Right. So he went down to. So this paranormal investigator went with a medium, claimed to be able to talk to the dead. The medium went into a trance and said that there was an Indian chief on the warpath in the house because it had been built on the site of a sacred burial ground.
Again.
Now, Holzer believes that the butch was possessed by the angry spirit of the Indian chief, and the chief will not leave the house until it burns down and leaves the land bare. There you go. No.
So, the sort of joke about the ancient Indian burial
where it
grounds
stems from, I think. Yeah.
Is it? We've heard about it.
And all of that jazz. So those jokes come from...
And Pet Cemetery.
Yeah. All of that was after this. So this is
the first.
Then you got Poltergeist. They did it in the early 80s, and then loads of horror movies copied it off of that. Became like a trope.
Right.
When you think about it, it's quite a clever one in a way, isn't it? Because it's obviously there's that sort of but obviously the original people in America were horrifically treated, and by the people who settled there. So it's quite yeah. There's a little bit of a when you look at it now, there's I suppose they thought they were being sort of like trying to be a bit even-handed, but it's a bit racist if you think about it. It's like an angry, vengeful Native American spirit. It's but I say a bit, but
no, it plays on white guilt and stuff, doesn't it?
Fears of kind of like basically you're in the wrong. So actually,
probably deserve it. Deserve a good haunting and murder.
There is that element to it. So there's all of that kind of stuff, and but yeah, I don't know. So I get it. That was kind of a clever twist. But yeah, that I think is pretty much where that cliche comes from. They've all got to start somewhere. Obviously, sounds really like hackneyed now, but I'm pretty sure that's where the original kind of thing comes from. So that's fascinating, isn't it? So we've had a load of deaths in our house. We've had a 28 days of inexplicable phenomena and absolutely fuck all sense. Because everyone else who live there.
Do people still live there?
Live there. It's changed hands, not quite recently. No real problems. It's not even like the Matasuta house where is it Matasuta house or Matasuta?
Matasuta, yeah.
House, where it's combined to one floor. It pretty much seems to have just disappeared now. So they can't really prove any of this stuff.
It's unusual.
The FAO did come out on prime time later on and said he lied when he heard voices come on against Kill. He was just trying to get a better insanity plea. He's now, I believe, passed. And on the Indian tribe thing, so the Montucket tribe of Long Island are sceptical of the claims, saying there are no records of a burial ground in Amityville. And even if there were, that doesn't mean we will go into somebody's body and capture their soul and control in a very, very negative way. That's not us, said the tribe.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really part of their philosophy.
Exactly. This is what I say. It's actually quite, whilst it's claiming, whilst you think of it on the face of it, it might be quite a, an even-handed thing to say, or sort of, but it's actually quite racist to claim that,
First Nations
spirits to take over and kind of murder people as vengeful spirits. It's not at all part of their sort of beliefs and philosophy. And
no,
you get the point.
No, that's kind of more. That's it. Well, though I was going to say it's European, but it's not because it's African as well, isn't it, and Asian. So it's just not. It's not Native American.
No, as far as I know, and obviously that's what their chief.
Or it might, or there might be we have to be very careful not to lump all Native American or First Nation people into one group because before Europeans settled there, they were hundreds of separate states. They're not one group, and they had wars with each other. They had treaties with each other. It was as complicated as European politics, and you had some tribes who were warlike and some who were peaceful, same as anywhere.
Yeah, and a lot of that will go along, probably circumstances will change up. Yeah.
Do you know what? This Butch guy, he got quite lucky because I'm just having a look and New York switches quite regularly from having the death sentence and not having it. He goes, death sentence, no, we don't have it anymore. Yeah, we've got it. No, we don't have it. Presumably, depending if Republicans or Democrats are in charge.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't have it in mid-70s. It came back in the early 80s for a bit. Then they didn't have it in till 94, 95. And then it went again in 2001 and was back in 2003. And it's gone now since then till now. But it's fucking roll of the dice.
Yeah.
What you got to do is you got to time your massacres depending on who's in Congress in your state, who's your representative.
What are you doing to win the serial killer vote, Congressman?
I'm assuming where there's the massive spike, it's when Giuliani was in charge. To be honest,
he was a hero of New York. But never forget 9/11.
Yeah, he certainly was there at 9/11.
Carrying people on his shoulders out of the buildings.
Well, he was the first responder in, wasn't he? I believe
suspiciously early on the scene. I would. Yeah, I ain't making any accusations. As I imagine he's obviously litigious.
Well, what I'm saying is, do your own research. Giuliani, Tower 5. That's what I'm saying.
Follow the money with the game. Let's make your own mind up.
All I'm saying is he might have made quite a profit out of that big tower, Freedom Tower, whatever they replaced it with. Just saying
that's entirely a coincidence. I'm sure there's nothing suspicious about that. So.
All I'm saying is he might have had some kickbacks from the mafia-owned concrete people who poured the concrete on it. That's all I'm saying.
Possible.
All I'm saying.
Right. So we've gone through sort of like the sort of established timeline and facts of the case as they've been laid out. So just going to have a few bits and pieces from Snopes to debunk some of the obviously still fairly ridiculous nonsense. But so let's take first the priest who, if I recall correctly, Chris, he He came running out of the house on fire with blood streaming from his eyes, ears.
Felt sick.
Yeah, and was vomiting ectoplasm at a rate of knots. So a guy looked into this, I'm skeptic. He interviewed the Father Pecoraro, or Father Pecoraro.
Father Pepperoni.
Father Pepperoni. Father Salami. He said he...
Isn't he the spokes character for Papa John's Pizza? Father Pepperoni. He's like a big cartoon.
He started saying some very problematic things.
He's been moved to a different, smaller pizza franchise.
He's now gone to Alabama.
In Argentina.
Chain of 3. So, yeah, he interviewed the priest and said that the priest said he never saw anything in the house.
It's easy enough. Unless he's been paid off by the dog.
We'll come back to the dog, because I think that's a good theory. So Joe Nichol, author of Entities, Angels, Spirits, Demons and Other Alien Beings, who personally visited the site and interviewed the later owners of the notorious house, found numerous holes in the story. The Lutzes couldn't... I didn't put this out. This wasn't on the part that I'd done, but one of their other claims during their 28 days was that there was a demonic hoof print in the snow outside.
Right.
So the devil came down. He's a busy little beaver, isn't he? He came down and he started, hoofing about and melting in the stuff. Unfortunately, weather records show there wouldn't have been any snow to leaf prints on at the time they were in the house.
Unless he manifested it. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? We're not dealing with... We're dealing with outsider science here. We're not dealing with the Met Office. The Met Office...
Spread another layer of bullshit over the top of... we can negotiate around reality as much as we like.
It could have been ash from hell. Could have been
like
ash.
Something out of Constantine or whatever. That was a terrible movie.
The film's all right.
It's all right. It just, I don't know. It could have been better. I really like the guy playing Lucifer. I can't remember his name. He's quite a good actor. One of those ones like Stellan Skarsgård or something.
But it's a graphic novel.
Yeah,
thing, isn't it?
By your man who did Watchmen and all of that shit. Alan Moore, I believe. So, yeah. It's originally supposed to look like Sting.
What Alan Moore was?
Alan Moore clearly is based on Gandalf.
Yeah. Sexy Gandalf.
Yeah.
Sitting there drawing tits. I don't want to go into his writing shed. Let's just say that.
We'll need extensive deep cleaning before we...
It's probably haunted.
Let's just say, there's evidence of ectoplasm. Enough of that. So, also, the book detailed extensive damage to the doors, to the home's doors and hardware, but the original locks, doorknobs, and hinges were all untouched when he went around to look at it. And the last one I don't really agree with. So, the book and film... Oh, no, the book and film showed police being called to the house, but during the 28-day siege, that drove them from the house, they never once called the police. And to be fair, I can understand that, because you're not going to call the police and go, "Oh, the doorknobs are bleeding, are you? What are you going to do about it?" I mean, I'll be honest with you, Chris. You'd be lucky to get them around and sort something out when it was a real crime. Never mind parapsychology.
Tell me about it. Oh, that's the Greens for you, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Too busy banning people eating lamb chops.
Oh, no, don't throw away that rubbish. Goldfish could live in there. Habitat for a heron, isn't it? Never mind if it spreads disease to my kids.
Oh, it's an absolute joke, isn't it?
So that was fun, wasn't it, Chris, the Amityville? You got less to talk about that than I'd hoped, I'll be honest with you. But, he kept it.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting story.
And it's got a lot of meat on the bones. It's obviously...
and something actually has happened there. And he's never really... It doesn't sound like he's ever explained why he did it. And he just comes up with loads of bizarre...
It changes every fucking time. Oh, you mean...
Yeah, he just comes up with
why he did it.
Doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's probably one of those things. I mean, he probably can't explain it to himself. Or, I mean, I believe the chap's passed now, but it's such a horrific act. I imagine you would have to rationalise that. I mean, I don't know. This is me, armchair psychology. But...
Or it could have been... I mean... I've not done every drug. I've done quite a few of them, and none of them have made me particularly violent or angry or anything like that. But I've not done stuff like crack or PCP, so I don't know how. I think people can get a bit fucking nuts on those kind of things, can't they? I mean, if he was off his face on PCP or something, then
at some point, though,
I don't know.
You think he would have?
Huh?
Defense, you think
he's going?
That would. blames the insanity plea.
Yeah.
You know, used PCP along with my mental health problems. I think if that was an out, he probably would have used it, to be honest with you, because he was looking at every other one. Yeah.
Do you think?
I mean, you know, again, I
well, but I mean, at most he would get, you know, diminished responsibility, but
no, but you could.
I don't. I mean, he was never going to walk free after killing 4 kids and his parents. Do you know what I mean? He was never going to walk free. So
I don't know. I think he would have come out with that later on at some point anyway, when his story was changing rapidly after being convicted. So, but no, you're right. We don't know why this person did it. I mean, there was.
Yeah, he hasn't said like I was. His father was abusive and stuff. But
apparently, his father.
But I don't know why you'd kill the other kids.
Precisely.
I can't understand killing your father, but or, you know, and even your mother maybe because you blamed her for not protecting you, but you wouldn't kill your siblings.
But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, no, I just
actually I am condoning it. Speak for yourself.
Fair enough. I'll leave you to crack on with that. Then. No, I mean, I don't know, and I'm not convinced like how. Well, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think you just have to like almost have a like mental break to kind of be able to deal with what you've done? I kind of almost shoebox that way.
I've heard it's like, you know, people who do these kind of things, even they'll rationalise it to themselves. Do you know what I mean? It was logical or not a bad thing to do because of X. And I think, you know, something like that. Him only having done it the once and sort of, well, as far as we know, I guess. But yeah, I think with your family as well, it's such a horrific thing. It would just, yeah, I think you'd have to rationalise that away in some way. And it's maybe, I mean, who knows? Maybe he's kind of almost lying to himself along a lot of these things. But you know, maybe.
Yeah, it's weird that it just never came out why. You know, he said, "Look, you know, I had a breakdown or something."
I think, but if I'm being honest, whatever. It just sounds like he was a bit of a sport brat. He kind of like, you know, wasn't. Well, it sounds like he didn't have like maybe the best job or whatever, and he's probably living like a comfortable middle class life. He's, you know, getting in his early 20s and he's still living with his parents. Probably a bit, you know, it gets a little bit sort of uncomfortable at that point, wouldn't it? I don't know, you know. I think you just start brushing up against each other and things like that, and he just took the coward's way out. But probably.
But I mean, that's.
But to go on.
That's a big leap.
To be honest with you, Chris, I can't conceive of how you'd turn a gun on your family. Full stop. You know what I mean? It's like your parents or any of the rest of it. It's just it's completely inconceivable to me. So, you know, logic that I don't think plays much. Anyway.
Yeah, I just think that kind of it's always good to try and understand why people do horrific things. So it could be that people are psychopathic, you know, and that's something which, I mean, you know, we're getting into philosophy to an extent, but you know, it's not the fact that their brain's built a certain way isn't really their fault, or people have been abused a lot as a kids and they're very damaged people. That can kind of explain why they do horrible things. Although, you know, it doesn't excuse it, but it can give an explanation, because obviously many more people have horrible childhoods and don't go on to kill other people or be abusive as adults. But it is an explanation. I think it is normal to try and find an explanation, because I just don't think that just being an arsehole means that, you know, he was just a dickhead, so he got pissed off and just killed them all. I don't think that's a satisfactory explanation.
Fair enough. And you know, like I say, that it's never really. I mean, they never really looked into the what and wherefore, and I suspect he wasn't.
He was just chucked in a hole, and exactly. Didn't care. Really,
place where he was probably going to be able to be honest enough with himself to, you know, to really examine why that had happened. I guess I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really speak. There's not much. There's not anything that speaks to that side of it. Truth be told, and to be honest with you, then people's interest becomes a bit more prurient, because you start getting into the demonic house nonsense. I mean, we didn't get a whole load of other factors, like supposedly there was glaring red eyes that would look into the house, and there's even the house itself looked like it was possessed by the devil, because if you actually look at the side of the house, it almost looks like 2 eyes and a mouth, and some people have commented that, you know, they're
2 windows and a door.
The personification of evil, Chris. There you go.
Do you reckon it was an eldritch god, and underneath the house it's got a massive body that's buried?
Blue Island, so maybe what's his face?
Lovecraft.
Yeah, maybe old Lovecraft lived there for a bit. And he said something so unspeakably racist that just
that he had to move to Connecticut.
Yeah.
where it was
even
accepted.
the other people at that time thought it was completely unacceptable, and he managed to conjure up some evil spirit that haunted the colonial house. So yeah, who knows?
Could be.
Who knows?
Could be.
Echo.
So
but it's a big interesting one. So I think we've covered it in plenty of depth. So on to scoring, I think.
So this week I have for my scoring, I have got, because I've had a lot of moths that have been growing in my house for a while. You know, when do you get the moths in your house and you get them on the wall and they've kind of made themselves a little cocoon like out of fluff, and you can see them go and pop their head out. Mm. So some of them have been becoming moths and flying around. I don't mind moths. I'm not going to kill them. I just let them, if the cats want to kill them, it's up to the cats. That's nature, but I just leave them to it. And on each of the moths, I have tattooed a number. What I'm going to do is turn on this side light I have here, and as they land on it and incinerate, I'll take the number off their back as they pass into the great beyond, the great mystery. So Neil, I'll let you go first with spoopiness. That's what the kids say for spookiness. That's what my bay says.
Oh, I can't think of any slang, so I won't go for that. Oh no, you were on fleck with that comment. There you go. Was that?
I was.
Yeah.
My bay's peng.
Yeah. Peng, yeah.
Well, peng.
Peng is slang. Okay, no idea what I'm talking about. So spookiness. Yeah, it's kind of like one of the original. I mean, obviously, there's stuff before. Well, no, not one of the original, but we were talking about, and as you're saying, there's a lot of cliches around haunted houses that have come out of this. So vengeful spirits, like, the lack of control. Obviously, there's the horrific murders that actually did occur, and just the completely inexplicable, as we were just sort of talking about at the end there, why did he do what he'd done? And I think you're right, probably is important to try and find out some explanation, but it's something that's so inexplicable, and even if you did manage to explain it, you'd still be asking why. Do you know what I mean? Because nothing can ever quite, give you an answer for why somebody would turn a gun.
Having a bad morning at work and going, sacking it off halfway through the day doesn't mean that you go home and kill all your children, siblings.
No, exactly, and whatever explanation is never going to be enough to actually explain an action like that. So, yeah.
Do you know what would have stopped him? 2 psychopaths with guns.
Well, no guns.
So, more guns. Yeah. If the kids had all had guns, would we be talking about this?
Oh, no, I've just put myself with whatever the hell I was ranting on about now. No, so speaking of, this is spooky. It's and I think also the fact the notion, it's weird because it's almost like people seek this paranormal explanation as why somebody would do something like that. But that almost makes it more spooky, the notion that actually you could be controlled by the divinity law or some sort of demonic entity, and that would cause you to do something so horrific to your own family. I think that's about the worst thing you could do. And I think, you can't, I mean, you'd never recover from something like that, would you?
Yeah.
I don't think I would. No, I wouldn't. But it's very spooky. I think this is going to be a fairly reasonable one for me. So I'm going to give it an 8.
8. So yeah, it has got spookiness to it. Like I was saying earlier, I probably would move into the house, but I think to start with, you probably would, you wouldn't sleep easy to start with. Not because you necessarily believe in ghosts, which I don't, but I don't know, there's something about being somewhere where something horrific's happened. It's kind of bad juju, isn't it? Bad atmosphere, probably. And I think you'd get over it, but I think to start with, it'd be a bit like, you'd feel a bit creepy being somewhere where lots of life was taken. I think the kind of, the spookiest thing of all is humans mentally going off the boil and being able to do horrific things, because, we try and explain it with demons or ghosts or whatever, but at the end of the day, I think it's scary to think that had we been born with our brain chemistry being slightly different, or if we'd had a different childhood, or, who knows, if we just snap, it could be in, I don't think it's in me, but you don't know, it could be. So I think that's scary looking at that kind of, at the end of the day, all of these ghost stories and all of these horrific killings and all of it pretty much it boils back to a human going wrong and being able to do something horrific. So for that reason, I think I'm going to give it a 7 for spookiness. So, believability. So the initial massacre did happen. Bloke was arrested. He made loads of stuff up to explain it, but he never really could explain it. But it definitely did happen. The second hauntings, I don't think happened particularly. I think maybe, I don't know, they don't sound like clever people, but they could have been smart enough to have thought, right, we could get this house and we could say loads of stuff happens and we could make a bit of money out of it, but then didn't legally get themselves sorted to make as much money as they probably could have.
Quite right.
Exactly. But I mean, it's not very difficult to think we could move into a place where something horrible happened and then say something happens to us, and then, then we could write a book about it or something. Like that doesn't take super intelligence. It probably takes a bit more intelligence to figure, or not getting carried away with it, to actually make sure you're legally in a strong position to profit from it to the extent which you probably could do. I think that if anything did happen, I think it's the bloke had sleep paralysis, and that could be brought on because he was a bit fucking scared about sleeping somewhere where loads of people had died. He probably didn't sleep well. That could have happened. So he might well have believed some of the stuff that he thought he saw when he woke up. I don't know about the ectoplasm particularly. I think that was probably just stray dogs coming in off the street because they left the front door open all night, or teenagers. I think it's hilarious that he apparently had the face of a 90-year-old woman. But I don't think it happened, unless it was just he wasn't sleeping very well, or he already looked quite like an old woman.
Oh, no, that was his wife.
Not seen a picture of him.
Woman.
Oh, his wife.
She suddenly looked really old.
Right. I mean, that could be just him banging on about ghosts and stuff all the time. So, I mean, it's got believability. So I'm giving it an 8 for believability because something did happen.
Yeah.
Neil?
And I think I'm similarly inclined to go quite high on this. And it's not because I believe the Lutzes, because clearly they were just on an absolute fucking grift. But it's about so many people have been able to buy into aspects of this. And it's been a perfect storm of like fucking chiselers coming into this, because you've got the Warren who are well known as one of these sort of parapsychology things. I mean, loads of these modern horror movies that like The Conjuring and all of those kind of things, Chris, these are all based on quote unquote true stories that the Warrens wrote. So they're kind of like, this is what I've heard of these people. And in the 70s, they were kind of like quite famous, going around.
Should we start doing this? Start going to supposed haunted places and then just making up some stories.
Funny enough, that Conjuring movie was based in London, the Enfield Poltergeist or something it was called.
Oh, I've heard of it.
I've over to London and they investigated a house that was...
I've listened to a podcast about the Enfield Poltergeist.
Yeah, so the Warrens were involved in that one and all. So yeah, they're quite, they've been around quite a bit and obviously made a bit of money out of it if they're able to travel sort of across the Atlantic to look into these things. But, good luck to them to an extent, I guess. But... you've got the horrific murders at the start. Obviously, as you say, that's that just did happen.
That's in the bank. You've got that.
You got that. You're going on with that. No matter what.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's safe.
That's safe. So on top of that, well, okay, so yeah, I don't believe that there was a haunted Indian burial ground or all of this nonsense that sort of is put across, or the demonic spirits, or red eyes looking through. But it's one of those things that's compelling. And as I say, I remember going right back to the start of the podcast when we were kids, talking about this kind of stuff on the bus. It's one of those things where it's set up quite they're throwing so much into the pot basically that you can pick and choose the bits that you want to believe. So there's a lot in here and I think there's a lot that people will give credence to. I mean, I don't know whether the Warrens truly believed half the stuff that they were investigating, or whether they were just massively, in on the con. But who knows? But there's enough in there that a lot of people will buy into it. And it's again because you want to have an explanation for why something so horrible would happen. But it's been years later, and
Oh, you're frozen.
Oh, can you not hear me?
No, you froze. You said it's been years later, and then froze.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's happening with my connection, but okay, I'll try and sum up that last bit again then. So it's I can imagine that it would be it's a kind of thing where a lot of people can believe various different aspects of this. You can decide how far you want to go down the sort of rabbit hole in terms of believing things, and therefore I'm going to give it an 8.
8. Okay, Reach, Neil. I'll let you go first.
I was just thinking I should have gone the other direction on that, Chris, and said I don't believe murder's ever happened. All right, it's a false flag. But I'm not that big of an arsehole. I'm a pretty big arsehole, but not Alex Jones.
Don't play yourself down.
Play yourself down. You're plenty of an arsehole.
You're one of the biggest arseholes I've ever met.
The biggest arsehole in Brighton. You just got Americans. You're not quite big enough.
And that is a fucking
absolute
heavy as the head that wears that crown.
Yeah, not only the number one hippest town in hippest city in the world. Also, anyway, sorry. What category am I on?
Reach.
Oh, Reach. Yeah,
Reach.
Yeah, this is another. This is going to be a big scoring one, I think, Chris. So I mean, I'd heard of this when I was a kid. It's had, I think, there were 3 movies in the original franchise. It clearly inspired Poltergeist. Toby Hooper and Steven Spielberg was involved in all of that because they copied a lot of the elements.
Coat off his nut.
Yeah. And it's inspired a whole lot of other sort of cliches and things like this afterwards. So it's not only got Reach by itself, but actually it's inspired cliches like haunted Indian burial grounds and what have you, that have all become cliches after the fact here. So regardless,
the centre of the web,
exactly. Regardless of what you believe in it or any of the rest of it, it's got massive reach. It's only been around since obviously '75, but yeah, numerous movies, franchise, book, best-selling book, 6 million sold, known all around the world. You can just say Amityville, which is the name of a town now, and people immediately associate it with this stuff. And it's inspired lots of other. I mean, obviously they didn't invent the haunted house genre, but it's kind of inspired it in ways that.
That was the Monsters.
Yes. Yeah. There were just some East European, just some Hungarians.
Just an Eastern European.
Affable Hungarians.
Hungarian family.
What's this?
Villainised.
What we do in America, we have corn and a fried steak with a baked potato. Thank you very much. It's just paprika nonsense you're trying to involve in my food. Oh, you monster!
Get out! You're monsters. This is paprika. We only like corn syrup.
Yeah.
Get out.
Preferably high fructose. I forgot where the hell I was going with this. Reach. Yeah. Look, I don't think I need to make much of a case for this. Multiple. Or the second reboot didn't spawn another franchise, so it's not exactly the Halloween movies, but it's pretty fucking big. For anything that's done all of that and gone all around the world, I think I've got to give it. I'm probably got to give this a 9 actually, because
9.
I don't know what I'm saving a 10 for, but it's pretty big reach.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's it's not a 10 because I don't think everyone's heard of it. Everyone's heard of Bigfoot. Not everyone would have. I'd be surprised if my mum had heard of Amityville.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's
might be the right page. There might be something.
But yeah, it's got very big reach. It's it's known all over the world. It's been in Eminem albums, which have sold hundreds of millions of copies. It's had its own film franchise, books. It's on the internet. Surprisingly, I mean, I had heard of it and everything. I didn't know the original story. I knew of the films and stuff. I mean, it's a high one again for me, but I'm going to give it an 8 because I don't think it's very top tier, like Loch Ness Monster top tier, but a lot of people have heard of it. So, narrative / premise. So I go on that one. Well, I mean, it's something that happens, and the narrative is some guy, for whatever reason, shot his whole family and then just made a load of stuff up. And then another group of people moved in there and made a load of stuff up. So it doesn't have much of a narrative or premise, if I'm honest. We've heard better stories. There's not a lot to it, even though it's kind of like a standalone incident. And I don't know, the thing is you can't do a lot about it because it's something that happens. So it is what it is. And what it is just basically a one-off horrendous crime. So, and then all the other spooky stuff, again, that kicks it up a little bit. But I don't think it's particularly rich. So this is probably going to be my lowest score of them all. It's not doing a huge amount for me because, like I said, it's just a one-off incident, a horrific crime that happened. It doesn't really have longevity. People have lived in the house and lived there now and nothing's happened, which does, very much heavily suggest that the people who said stuff happened were bullshit. But, they did come up with... I like the fact they had a 1980s style coked up, wind up, throwing a ball around the room ideas session with the lawyer as to, basically massively embellishing what they've said and just making it all seem like it was demonic. So that's good. But in general, it's not great. So I think it's just I'm going to give it a 4.
Ooh. So I'll go in another direction with this, I think, because I think the fact that it has the original facts, and the thing is that people generally tend to, like, who have seen the movies and things like this, tend to be less cognizant of the actual original reality of what happened. It was just, there was some horrible murders by a possessed son, and then all this other spooky stuff happens, and things like the cliche of, say, the burial ground and the vengeful spirits and all of these kind of things. I mean, none of this is stuff that hasn't been done elsewhere. But I think compared to a lot of urban legends, there's actually quite a lot to it. There's quite a premise. And I'd say my argument for it having a reasonably strong narrative is the fact that they've managed to change it, turn it into 3 movies. There's a lot you can do with the whole kind of like haunted house and the family scenario. I mean, just that whole kind of...
To be fair, they made Hellraiser into 10 movies, so it doesn't take a lot.
Don't get me wrong, they'll make a draw, but
it take a lot
compared to Merlin's.
And there's now 17 Fast and Furious movies, so
well,
films aren't difficult to make.
What I like about that whole Fast and Furious thing is every time there's a new one about to be released, there's some feud behind the scenes, like, Vin Diesel and The Rock start calling each other candy asses or whatever, and everyone's like, they're not going to work together for real this time. You don't think they're just in the mood?
The sexual tension's palpable.
Just blow each other off. Just 69, get on with it, guy. You glistening packs. Anyway, I think it's got. I take your point in that the original story. There's not, it's just a horrific thing that happened. But I think they've layered on enough guff now that there's some sort of compelling stuff, and it's made its way into a number of different ways. It's inspired some other sort of retellings of similar stories. So I think there's, and I just think as well, what's quite a compelling narrative for me is the notion of sort of being under the control of something evil, or the personification of evil, as Elizabeth Warren would call it, and that could lead you to murder your family or do something so unspeakable. I think that's quite a rich thematic vein. So, but take your point, so I'm going to give it, not the best narrative, but compared to, we take like, your tier 10 ones like Loch Ness Monster and stuff, there's a lot more.
That's not got a lot of narrative.
People fall for anything, won't they? I'm going to give it, I'm going to go 7.5. You've swayed me a little bit, but...
Okay, and that gives us an overall total, a very respectable 59.5. So that is a very high scoring, and I'm not surprised, Neil. We went for a biggie for Halloween.
It's going to be a big one. That's why we pull it out for the feast.
Yeah, and if you've got anything to say about Amityville or any other urban legends, you can email us at legends@gmail.com. And just to let you know, the slightly different Halloween-based intro and outro this week is my favourite Halloween song of all time, which was The Ghost of Islington Green, open brackets, Thatcher's Monster, close brackets, by Ian Dury and the Blockheads. I think it's a great song. It was a B-side, but I felt it was very powerful, not only spooky, but, you know, it speaks of Thatcher's Britain, which was a scary time.
One of my top 5 anti-Thatcherite ghost songs. Obviously, Ghost Town by the Spectres is number 1, obviously, but
yeah, of course. But, you know, bit obvious. So, you know, if you are moving into a house that has it's just massively undervalued because of murders, and for some reason, some kind of ectoplasm or goo appears all over your front room when you've left the door open all night, don't have nightmares or sleep paralysis.
Or if you're going to get a house surveyed, get a priest involved, and if he starts bleeding from places he shouldn't.
And a druid.
Yeah, you know, maybe reconsider.
Do it before you sign the contracts, that's all we're saying.
All money changes hands.
Yeah. You know, you got to put the work in up front to make sure you're not buying
the legal
house.
And spiritual sides.
Exactly. The two things we can't avoid: death and taxes. And so that's it from this Halloween special of Urbane Legends. I'm off to trick or treat in my sexy cat outfit, so I will bid you goodbye.
Goodbye.
Java here. Well, that's it. The Amityville Horror House of Horrors. I wasn't aware this was a real thing. Were you? Blimey. Oh, those Americans, they don't half get up to some business. Not to say that I wouldn't mind taking a role in one of their situation comedies. My agent's details are at the bottom of the screen. I really am available for almost any work. I will bid you adieu and see you soon. Try not to have too much of a sleepless night. Bye. Corned beef, hash and football thugs for all pack of off, master and designer drugs. Money to fight the Falklands War, but no more money to house the poor. Vampires are spectres, a ruling class. Offshore banking have a pass. Thatcher's monster roams the land. Don't expect a helping hand.